Hello everyone, welcome back to Strawberry Podfics. This is Hysterical by Spark the Fangirl, chapter 2. But first, thank you guys all for all the subscribers and all the comments. I love comments. Thank you. Chapter 2, How to Create a Chaos Child. After that day, Inko decided to not tell people the specifics of Midoriya's quirk. Instead, she coached him on how to tell people about his minor strength enhancement quirk and its self-healing aspect under certain requirements, which was all completely true while still leaving out the fact that the certain requirements was his literal death. Bakugo knew the full truth, of course. It would be hard to forget, but nevertheless, he agreed to keep Midoriya's full quirk on the down low. As a result, he gradually stopped the snide remarks and the occasional punch he had given Midoriya before his quirk had come in. Not that he didn't try, mind you. The fact was, bullying him was just no fun. He'd push Midoriya to the ground just to have him give Bakugo a look. Bakugo hated his looks. If anything, it just made him want to beat the kid up more. But he couldn't do that, because then Midoriya would give him a talking to. And Bakugo hated those more than anything. Kachan, we don't hit our friends. You're not my friend, dick. We don't call our friends dicks either. Shut up, don't tell me what to do. I'm just worried about you, Kachan. These conversations usually ended up with Bakugo gurgling incoherently in pure anger. And after a while, he accepted that as much as the boy needed it, he could not simply give Midoriya a good beating now and again, which meant that he might as well get on with his life. That did not, however, stop Midoriya from following him around like a lost puppy, which annoyed him greatly. After the appearance of his quirk, Midoriya finally began to show some spine and actually possessed a great deal of self-confidence that he had been lacking. Part of this might have been because what he was, as far as the professionals knew, effectively immortal, which, considering his dream to become a hero, was pretty dang great, because who had ever heard of a hero who couldn't die? He was going to be the best. Honestly, most of his confidence could probably be attributed to the modified adrenaline his body was constantly pumping into him. The adrenaline also had the added effect of making him ridiculously energetic all the time. Really, it was a good thing he and Bakugo were friends. Anyone else would collapse into the constant motion of the two. Midoriya also picked up a few anxious habits, or dare I say quirks, finger guns, because of the nature of his power. These were mainly small things like muttering constantly and tapping his feet at a near insane pace. But he also took up a few hobbies that satiated his need to do something. His favorite of these was parkour, which he quite regularly roped Bakugo into as well, usually with a declaration of his superiority, which was clearly not something Bakugo could ignore. He also began taking lessons at a nearby dojo. This part was on Bakugo's insistence as, and I quote, "If your quirk is going to break everything, might as well learn how to aim so you break the villain." Midoriya had nearly cried at the offer to accompany him. In truth, the lessons had done wonder for his quirk control, as he learned how much power to put behind each punch and kick. He stopped breaking things as often as he learned how to regulate the force behind his movements. This does not mean that he didn't break anything ever. Far from it. Only that he was better at not shattering everything he touched for once. Even with these newly implemented lessons, Midoriya broke bones nearly every day. Unless they were major injuries, he would typically ignore them until he could get home and, as his mother was fond of saying, reset. He found that while the broken bones didn't hurt necessarily, the sensation of his limb not functioning properly and instead flopping unsettlingly wasn't a pleasant one. The feeling did not compare, however, to the inevitable disgust he felt upon inevitably killing himself. It wasn't that he minded necessarily. He always felt better afterwards, almost rejuvenated in a way, but at the same time, it really was unpleasant. And yet, as the years went on, he got used to the strangeness of his life and accepted his weird quirk. After all, it was better than no quirk at all. Bakugo got even angrier, as if that was possible, as they got older and began to take his frustrations out on some of the other extras. But every time he did, Midoriya would intervene. This had the effect of it becoming common knowledge that Bakugo was a demonic gremlin, and Midoriya was the only ethereal being that was able to keep him in check, which, to be fair, was accurate enough. After a few years of being subjected to Midoriya's near-constant preachings of peace, Bakugo did mellow out slightly. By slightly, I mean that he no longer picked fights with every person that crossed his path. Now, he only picked fights with every person that crossed his path that deserved it. I will be the first to admit, however, that his definition of deserving was rather convoluted, but it kept Midoriya off his back for the most part, and that was what mattered. As for Inko, Well, let it be known that her job was not an easy one, not by a long shot. I'm of course referring to the fact that her only son required constant care, and the nature of his quirk made it so that the aforementioned care was his literal death, occasionally at the hands of Inko herself. However, this was only in the situations where it was absolutely necessary. Say, when Midoriya had broken not one, but both arms during the day, and was therefore unable to reset himself. This situation did not traumatize Inko as much as she expected it would. Oh, sure, the first few times had been hell, and she had cried herself to sleep more times than she could count in the beginning. But around the 115th time he reset it, it started to seem, dare I say, mundane. It was this mindset that allowed her to tolerate the layer of glitter that coated every inch of her house and the butcher knife in the bathroom cabinet. A clarification upon both these oddities. It is no exaggeration to say the glitter was everywhere. In the sink, in the beds, over the counter. No matter how many times she'd washed it, their washing machine always had a handful of glitter in the lint catcher. And more often than not, the vacuum cleaner was half filled with crumbs and dust and half filled with, you guessed it, glitter. As for the butcher knife, well, it wasn't their only knife kept for the sole purpose of resetting Midoriya. It was just that over the years they had realized that the mess was contained much better if the deed was done in the bath with the curtain drawn. It had become common for Midoriya to get home, go to the bathroom, and for Inko to hear the shower run as he washed the glitter down the drain. Part of her did worry that this level of desensitization was bad, but another much louder part of her told her to ignore the first part, as much as she told herself that it was fine, because, one, it didn't hurt him, quite the opposite, in fact, as he confided that the sensation of broken bones, while it didn't hurt, was a very annoying one, and second, he always came back. These reasons were enough for her to not worry herself much with the circumstances life had given her. She did, however, still concern herself with every other aspect of Midoriya's life. Midoriya, for his part, as much as he might have complained in the moment, greatly appreciated her overprotective nature. So, life passed like this until, before anyone knew it, Midoriya and Bakugo were entering middle school with their eyes set on being heroes. And that is Chapter 2, and the author did say that the first few chapters were going to be pretty short, because they really want to get to the canon events. So, that's why they're short. Anyways, thank you for listening. Subscribe, comment, leave a like, and I will see you guys next time.